technology, electronology, and nubology.
So we're gonna get deep into it.
Turn it to the left.
So you really want to know, huh? Fine. I'm going to start by telling you this. And this is important, so listen up. Your entire life, this one and many others, you've been a god who uses its absolute power to make yourself powerless. Entire cultures, especially this one, have all been afraid of their weaknesses, supposedly. When in reality, they've all been afraid of their power. This goes beyond the matrix of reality. This is something much deeper than that. This is eternal. This is fully realizing your consciousness. This is infinite. This is evolution. This is our divine right.
Welcome everybody to Bootsy Greencast. Today I am very fortunate to have my good friend George, aka Georgui, on the podcast. Did I pronounce that correctly?
Yeah, you're pretty good.
I don't know. I'm not as Russian as I'd like to be.
The beard is pretty Russian, though.
That's fair.
It's way Russianer than my beard. So
That's fair. I'll take that. I've got a cool hat over there that's really furry that I could put on.
No, you're good. You're good.
Okay.
I mean, if you need to, feel more
I
at
could take
home.
my shirt off. That'll be.
Ooh, I mean, how PG is the podcast? That's what I'm
I
saying.
mean, we're here to be ourselves.
Okay,
That's
all
really
right.
the whole point.
Well, I mean, they can't see with their earballs, so
Well, that's true. So if you're on the RSS feed, then you're going to want to hop over to YouTube and check
check
this
that out. Yeah, check it out.
But yeah, my friend George, we met a few years ago.
Yes, we did.
George has an amazing story. He is an actor. He is a stunt man. He is a real estate agent. I mean, what don't you do? Like, we should start there.
I don't kidnap children.
Okay, proud of you.
All right, what's up? That I mean,
So that's about it.
accomplishment.
Cool.
You know what I
So,
mean?
yeah.
Everything else, it's a no. Well, I don't do a lot of things. I am not a very creative writer. That's not a thing for me. I do other things though. I used to be in a circus. That was a thing back in the day. My parents still are. My dad builds shows, equestrian shows mostly. I used to bartender. That's how.
Yeah, that's how we met. And
boozed up.
We were both bartending.
Yes.
And I would come in and see you, and you would pour me. I would be like, "Let me get a vodka tonic," and you'd be like, "Oh yeah, here you go."
vodka time. And then we would do a couple of shots, and then we never drank while we worked. We were very professional people overall. But you had a brilliant story, and with the drums and everything, and then you started the whole Airbnb business. That was creative as heck. I
Stole the idea from everybody else on Airbnb.
I steal everything, mostly from Russians. Because it's like how can you plagiarize from over there, right?
Well, yeah, they say in Russia, they have freedom of speech, but not freedom after speech.
Sometimes not freedom during speech either.
Or during, yeah.
You have freedom of, though, Hey, come on now, don't talk about our beloved president. Putin is a great man. I want everybody to hear this right now. I love him. He's good.
There you go.
We're not lawyers.
We're good, yeah.
So there's, you gotta say certain things.
I don't have any followers in Russia as it stands. Like the podcast, which a big reason why I'm having George over is because, well, George wants to tell his story. George wants to help people, and I have a heart for that, for sure. So basically, we had lunch the other day, and I was like, yeah, I'm doing this and that. He's like, hey, man, I've been thinking about podcasting. I was like, well, guess what? I have a podcast. Do you want to come on it? And I'll show you how to podcast and all of that. So you were saying that you wanted to be a motivational speaker, talk to people in groups and tell them your story and try to, help them elevate their lives, which I think is beautiful and awesome. And I totally support and endorse. So I was like, George, why don't you come over? We'll make a podcast. We'll use your gear to do it. I'll give you the, information to take home and edit it and walk you through all the steps of the process so that you can do your own podcast, and I'll help you, to kind of show you the ropes.
Indeed.
And that is part of the reason why we're here. And I would have love to have you as a guest anyway.
Dude, that was
Well, I mean,
great, though.
we've combining.
really
It's like
good. I mean, your
killing
story
both
is
birds with
fucking epic.
one stone.
We're getting two birds stoned at the same time.
Stones are birds. Well, the overall idea is very brilliant. I love the podcast platform. It's like the old CDs and the books on tape and all of that, right? That in the late night infomercials, learn how to do blah blah, right? And I mean, how awesome that was. That era of audiobooks that everybody makes fun of. Oh, you listen to those tapes? Ha ha ha. Yeah, but those guys, some of them made millions after that. They listened to one idea and that's the power, right? I come from a very interesting background. I love what I did. I never would have imagined that it would have brought me here after being a resident of over 4 countries. I started. My father is a circus man. He was a recognized Soviet performer by the time he was 12 years old. He was a nationally recognized performer, which is a big deal back then, especially when the Moscow Circus was a Soviet institution. And so I joined the family act by the time I was about 12. My parents were already in Mexico at the time. It was 91. The people that brought them out there actually went bankrupt. And they declared bankruptcy and basically left all of the performers in Mexico.
Wow.
Yeah, without a job, without a contract, without the ability to speak the language, because, I mean, they all were from Russia. So my father kind of took charge of the proceedings. He called Moscow Circus and finally got a hold of somebody and said, hey, this is the situation. Would you mind bringing us back? I believe the answer was something to the effect of, okay, we will bring the people back, but leave the equipment. Well, for most of us, that was not a choice. Our equipment included animals. We had 12 horses. Leaving 12 horses behind for somebody is like leaving 12 partners, because a trick rider, that's what we did. We did trick riding. It's acrobatic on horses.
Okay.
For those who is not familiar with the term. But because of that, you become very close to your partner, your horse, your trick riding partner. And to leave 12 of them, it's kind of like saying, well, leave your 12 cousins behind and migrate here. So my father declined their gracious offer and decided to start marketing the show that already existed. He didn't have to build anything like that. He just had to find a contract. So he became a marketer of this show. Yeah, and successfully. He after that brought programs out of Russia again for different events in like the Fiesta de Octubre in Guadalajara, which is like an annual 2-week party, Oktoberfest essentially, right? Beautiful, fun. Oh, if you guys haven't been, go. So he did that for a number of years. We all worked for the act, and then we had the opportunity to come to the United States. Actually, Athens. It was the '96 Olympics, and there was a circus scout. And I know this is like kind of a left field, but we have agents as well, kind of like the movie business, right? But he was out there looking on the border, and we were performing in Mexico on the border at the time. So he found my father after the thing, and my father, unique man that he is, he learned to speak English when he was still in Soviet Russia, because he was like, English is spoken throughout the world. I travel as a circus performer. I want to represent myself well. And so he already spoke English. So this American agent comes up and he's like, hey, who's the owner? And my dad is like, I am. And the guy's like, whoa, you speak English? And the guy's like, yeah. And so they spoke a little bit, and he invited my father to work in the States. And that was a big decision because we had horses, we had 12 employees plus his family, which included me. And to move everybody across a border is not, a new language, new tradition, new people, new ways of life, right? So he, as a democratic man, said, we put it to a vote. Everybody unanimously said, let's go to America. And so I don't think I was there. I was not 18, so I didn't allow to vote. And so we decided to cross borders, and my father, man, dude, that was an ordeal. So back in Mexico, the circuses were in charge of transporting us. In the United States, that's not a thing. You put yourself on wheels, right? So we had 12 horses and a lot of equipment, a semi-trailer full of equipment. That's how much equipment we had. So my dad had to buy 2 semi-trucks and semi-trailers, outfit one of them as a horse carrier for 12 horses with air conditioning and heat. Better living conditions than some people, you know. But like he did all of this, right? Invented all of this stuff. And then we crossed over. It was crazy. The quarantine, we had to sit in quarantine for 2 months because horses, you know. In quarantine, they used our horses to breed horses, which we didn't know about, and messed our horses up. Because once a stud breeds, it's weird. If they've never done it before, they don't know what they're missing. After that, it just anything that walks by them becomes a problem for them. They become nervous. They start sweating. It's an issue. So they ruined a couple of our horses. We finally got here, and you know, it wasn't an easy life. You know, my dad worked really hard to get us more contracts and stuff like that. We progressed and slowly, but we ended up in Athens immediately. And Athens, Georgia, the greenery, the scenery, and all of that, the climate is very like where we come from in North Ossetia, called Vladikavkaz. Vladikavkaz is a North Ossetian center city, you know, capital, right? But the North Ossetia is really close to Russian Georgia, Georgia, right? So my hometown is about 5 hours away from the border of Georgia. So we kind of always joked. We went from near Georgia to Georgia. You know. But you know, we worked here. We traveled all over the United States. Then we went to Canada. We lived there for a while. Traveled there, worked there, came back here. At some point, we settled in Virginia Beach, and I wanted to go back to school. I didn't quite graduate. I got my GED at some point. I gesticulate a lot.
Gesticulate. That sounds dirty.
Well, if you don't know the word,
masticate,
gesticulate,
like,
right?
oh man,
articulate,
yeah,
you know,
yeah, flagellate.
Oh.
Sorry.
Yeah, no, it's good.
I'm still learning the language too.
Same
so, you know,
here.
We're kind of, you know, we're
I'm
both...
not quite sure if I know the words that I'm saying. I memorized a lot of quotes from American movies, and I just put them together. Really,
I think you're golden, bro.
I'm
you're
like Archer,
so far.
like Archer that way. You know, it's same writing style.
Turns out they weren't horses after all; they were penguins or something.
I don't know. If you don't know, you don't know. You know, I'm saying it as a horse. I got a picture in my mind of what it is. I'd love to show it to you, but I have not discovered the technology yet. So whatever comes to your mind, that's what we did.
Go with that.
Go with that.
Yeah,
don't tell nobody.
Don't think of a purple cat or whatever they say.
Oh, you know.
You can't help but
No.
think of
Yeah. What? Yep. Mm-hmm.
Anyway, I'm sorry to interrupt.
Cheshire.
Yes. I'm sorry to interrupt. You're saying you guys settled in
I was
Virginia
gesticulating.
Beach. Yes. I'm doing it too now.
You copycat, you.
I can't help it.
No, actually, that's a great salesman,
It
right?
is. Yeah.
It's called
See how
mimicking behavior,
I'm
right?
imitating your posture and
It's
everything.
beautiful. Look at
Killing
you.
it.
I have no posture, so.
You're going to buy a timeshare after this, buddy.
Ooh, where? Is it in Antarctica? Yes, please. Love the Northern Lights.
Yes.
By the way, there's a hotel out there apparently
Really?
that like has like an igloo type feel, and you can see the Northern Lights from it.
Whoa, that's crazy.
And I would like to do that.
Yeah.
At some point. So we settled in Virginia. I was like, well, you know, I didn't go to college, but I want to go back to Athens, Georgia, and go to school here.
Yeah.
UGA. Mm-hmm. My dad was like, really? You're going to do that, huh? I was like, yeah. He's like, you got in? I was like, soon. He's like, all right, well, I guess that's a noble cause. You can leave the family business, go study UGA. And I was like, okay. So I get here. I'm like, wow, how am I going to get into UGA? So
with the GED.
Yeah, with a GED, right? So I was already taking some classes in Virginia Beach in a Tidewater Community College. So some of the credits transferred, but some of them didn't. And I went to Athens Tech. They asked me to take an entrance exam. And I was like, all right, sure. I'll take that. Didn't superiorly went well. But surprisingly, the only thing that I had to do remedial stuff in was math, which blew my mind. I was like, I passed English, all right.
It's not that hard,
Apparently. As long as you say something like masticate and gesticulate,
I mean,
and
that's a lot
you're
of
in.
syllables. Yeah.
You're in, all right? I was in. And so I was like, great, that's awesome. I was like, well, math. Well, who has time for that? I'll leave that to like the end, when I have to take it. Because it's going to be hard, man. Last time I took math was 6th grade. It evolved a little.
Yeah.
5 times 5, I get it. X times Z, I don't. Like,
Yeah,
what? Why is there letters
I
in
have a
math?
hard time with that too, and I'll be honest with you. I've never done algebra, trigonometry, or any of that shit.
I did all of that shit, but I don't know how. I forgot.
Well,
now.
I mean, I did it in school, but
Yeah.
since I'm coming out, I've never used it.
And what was the point of it?
Not once.
The trigonometry especially.
Yeah,
Like,
exactly.
ooh, angles. Well, and also, why were there letters in math?
Right. I was confused
Seems
by
like
that
English.
too. Yeah, I was confused by that too. I was like, why is there an X in this math problem?
And then they have a plus, and I'm like, well, hold on a second. Are you just guys drunk and just not sure what y'all doing here? It's like a math professor and a English teacher got together.
And they're like, how can we screw these people's minds up?
Here we go. Yeah, I don't understand you. You don't understand me. Let's put this together. So I was like completely like, all right, cool. I'll take that when I can just dedicate myself to this. So I did all the other stuff and, got a bunch of credits. And I was like, all right, cool. Let's do the math thing. And I'm sitting with my guidance counselor in Athens Tech. And I'm like, hey, what do I take next? She's like, well, you've got math. I'm like, all right. She's like, you want to take math? I was like, yes. She's like, which math do you want to take? She's like talking to me like I'm a slow person. And I'm like
a circus performer.
I was like, Carney and
Carney.
ooh. Don't ever call a circus performer a Carney.
Yeah, don't do that.
The reason being, circus performers in Russia had to study 2 years of vocational school, or essentially of trade school, to become a circus performer. They are taught etiquette and all kind of stuff, right? Carnies have criminal records, mostly child molesters. I don't know if that's true. I'm sorry, Carnies, but a lot of criminals, guys. Small hands smell like cabbage.
Yes. I've heard. So I'm like, wait, I have remedial math. How many possibilities of choice do I have? I'm thinking this in my head, but at the same time, her behavior is indicating a completely different problem. I have choices. I'm like, well, what kind of math can I take? I asked the guidance counselor, like the slow circus performer that I am. And she goes, well, you can take college algebra. And I was like, well, when I took the test, it didn't say I could, because it said I had to take 3 remedial math classes prior to college algebra. Mm-hmm. But I don't betray myself. I'm a Soviet. I don't fall under torture and mind games. Of course
I
not.
say, really? College algebra? What's that like? She's like, do you want to take it or not? I say, yes, I would love it. I would love to take college algebra. It's a college credit, right? She says, yes. Oh, okay, yes, please. I will take this college algebra course. So I take it. We do the pre-test because the instructor actually is an amazing man. And she gives us a pre-test. I look at this pretest and I fill out my name and I'm like, all right, the rest of it is a guessing game. So
I know that feeling all too well, my friends. And especially when it comes to something like college algebra, because I had a hard time. I had to take math modeling.
Oh.
So that was my college level math course. I got a degree in recreation and leisure studies.
Nice.
So
well, psychology, it's almost the
basically
same
it's
thing.
duck, goose, you know.
Psychology.
For idiots. Yeah. But yeah, so you're taking the pretest. It's a guessing game, kind of like me on the SAT. I'm tracking with you.
Right. So I woke up to the instructor covered in cold sweat because failing tests was a really big trigger for me, for anxiety. So I woke up and I'm like, hey, so if somebody didn't know anything on that test, do you think they can still pass your class? He's like, you know what? Study hard. Do what I tell you as far as homework goes. You'll be no problem. I had a 70 on my next exam, and then I had 98s to 95s on the rest of the test.
Man.
I worked my butt off on that. I actually worked in Dow America at the time, night shift. So from 5 o'clock till 7:30 or 8 o'clock in the morning, my class was at 9. So I'd go straight from work to class. Ooh. And then from 10 till 12, I would go and study and did all the problems in the book. And then I'd go to sleep, and then I would go and actually train somewhere too, because I did mixed martial arts at the same time. And so I don't know where I found the time, but I did. And it was cool. And I passed the test, and then I had enough credits to transfer to UGA and without a test. So I transferred to UGA with a 3.8 with a Hope Scholarship. Pale gave me more money to go to school. So I essentially got paid to go to UGA, which was awesome. Worked my butt off there. Got 2 degrees. Got a Russian literature and a psychology degree. Psychology was what I was going for, but I met a really strange guidance counselor, and she just advised me pretty much once and said, you could take Russian. I was like, well, I already know Russian. She's like, yeah, but it's an easy A.
Yeah, bro.
And you get to keep your UGA, your Hope Scholarship. And I'm like, that's a great idea.
Yeah, pad it, man. Pad the budget, right? Totally.
So she somehow got me into like the top level classes, because I'm a Russian, obviously. She didn't want to put me in like Duck Goose classes, right, I guess. Right. I was like, all right.
We would have met earlier. But, whatever.
I wish. So I fall in with this lady, Yelena Krasnoshokova, man, great teacher. All right, she was a author biography for authors. Writer, I don't know.
She She helped people with their autobiographies.
No. She did historical biographies on authors.
Okay, got it.
There we go.
Got it.
I can't say this.
No,
stuff.
you're good. You're good.
A lot of.
That's a lot. Yeah. It's early too.
Just in the jaw and the throat.
It's just getting warm.
Right. But because of that, and she wrote on guys that basically were oppressed by the regime of the czars, and the regime of the czars are the kings in Russia. For those who.
Yeah, we got czars here a few years ago. I'm not real sure where they came from. And all of a sudden, we have czars now.
Yeah,
in the United States,
it's strange. Yeah,
it's interesting.
Everybody wants to break the system.
Sure. Yeah. Well, it's progressive.
Yeah. Go visit Russia, check it out, see how the broken systems work. So before you go anarchy on us, but I like the idea. Keep it up.
Putin.
I love you, guy.
You're the man.
You're the man. Just keep saying that, guys. You won't end up in Germany. I might. Edit that out. So, where am I?
Timestamp. Where are we at?
It's good. I don't care. Putin, I don't think he's going to come get me, but I'm too small, and I don't have my own podcast yet. And on my podcast, this type of talk will not be allowed.
There's so many podcasts. You know what I mean? Like, right? I don't think very many. Yeah.
And as long as you don't call it like Putin sucks,
you're
probably going to be okay.
I'm kind of tempted to call it that now, but I'm not going to. I'll call it something else.
Maybe we'll both go to Russia earlier than expected.
I would actually. An invitation to a beheading awaits us.
Yeah, well, they don't do that. They send you places and you stay there. And those places are usually not very nice. And you can't escape because it's like, well, go. Siberia.
Ooh, it's cold outside.
Everywhere for hundreds of miles.
Vast. I mean, I would like to go and visit, actually.
Siberia?
Well, not Siberia.
Okay,
but...
Putin.
No.
Stand down, guys.
But yeah, I mean...
dude, you'd love my town.
Yeah.
Oh.
I mean, yeah.
North Ossetia, one of the tallest elevations, Elbrus. Gorgeous countries. Like, I mean, if you like Denver and stuff like that with the mountains.
Oh, yeah.
Beautiful.
Oh, that sounds... Yeah, I would love to... I want to explore as much as I possibly can.
Oh, man, and people are amazing down there, dude. Friendly, they get you drunk. Everybody's happy all the time. Food is good. I mean, like, women are beautiful.
That sounds great.
Dudes are nice, like...
I love it.
That's it. It's a good place. Like, just be respectful, have your manners, and
Sure.
you'll enjoy it. That is by the way, a trip advice for anyone. If you go into a different country and you found it rude to you, it's because you were probably rude.
Man, I have had that. I've seen that. I saw that so many times when I was traveling. Because after college, I went to South America for a while. I was in Peru, and I saw, like, gringos from the States down there acting a fool. Like one dude's like yelling at a lady, "Cigarette, cigarette," and it's like, dude, that's not how you say it. It's cigarro. Okay, first of all, learn what it is that you're asking for. And yelling at people doesn't make them understand the wrong word any more than saying the wrong word does at a regular tone of voice. So, I saw a lot of attitude and entitlement overseas, and it was kind of disappointing. To say the least. But, that doesn't mean that there aren't good representatives too. Yeah, be polite.
Yeah.
I mean, it's not much to ask, regardless of where you are. Be polite.
I've met plenty of people from every country, United States, Mexico, Canada, who traveled to other countries, and they just understood the simple statement, and it was given to us by Rome, right? When in Rome, do as the Romans do. That's the end of that statement. We shortened it, when in Rome, and nobody actually understands what that is anymore. When in Rome!
You can't just throw that out there. But
Finish the statement. Do as the Romans do. Hey.
Oh, okay.
Now we get it,
yeah.
But yeah, do as the Romans do. Yeah. See what they're doing. If you can't say the word, just mimic it. Everybody knows the gesture. It's, could be two things.
Yeah, totally.
A cigarette or a really small cigar. What
A cigarillo.
Cigarillo. There you go. That's what
But we were talking about your Russian professor, actually,
right? So
who wrote biographies for authors,
yes. Right? So she was amazing because of that. She knew history that I was just never taught, and I was hooked. Like the first class I took, I was like, oh wow. And I was like, I took the author class. It was Pushkin, I think, and she thought, oh my God, Pushkin. First of all, you know what I mean. Well, maybe you don't, but
I don't.
Pushkin is one of the biggest authors in Russia. Like he was considered like the people's people, and like just Google it, Pushkin, or Linux it.
How do you spell it?
I don't know how you spell it in English. P-O-O-S-H Push
K-I-N?
Pushkin?
P-U-S-H-K-I-N? Maybe?
One of those two, yeah.
I'll definitely will look it up.
Yeah.
I mean, I know the
I think if you type
Tolstoy,
one,
Dostoevsky.
yeah. So he was a
Solzhenitsyn.
poem. Yeah, good one, dude. He wrote poems, and he would wrote in rhythm and rhyme, actual almost books. Like the way he understood the Russian language was incredible, and his first language actually was French, which was even more incredible. And he walked to school 15 miles or something like that just to be in the school that he wanted to be. Very interesting individual, old soul from the birth. But so we took and she taught his history, and it was just so interesting. And then every author that Chekhov and all of these guys that she Chekhov is one of my favorite guys. He could put Dostoevsky, I like, but in Tolstoy, but they write so
they're
lengthy.
verbose.
Yeah,
it's and Ayn Rand moved over here, but similarly with her, I read one of her books and I was like, good God, man, the sex scene is 20 pages.
Right?
Can you just?
It doesn't take that long.
I mean, John Galt can't go for that long.
No
man.
Not for 20 pages of reading. I mean,
no wonder everybody's asking who this guy is, right? He lasts longer than Viagra. Jesus.
Indeed. So, but Chekhov, on the other side of that, right? He could put it all together in 2 to 15 pages, and you just oh my God, and you can reread it over, unpacking more and more meaning, whatever you want out of it, just yanking it out. It's amazing. The Thin and the Fat, read that one. It's a freaking amazing story. Oh, but in any case, so just every single class she taught was just interesting, and I'm taking more and more classes. A's are nice, and it's pretty easy. But on this other side, I haven't been writing or reading Russian since I was in 6th grade. So it's actually a refresher course, and it's not that easy. I'm memorizing 3 pages of a poem because that's her requirements. So we did that. It was an incredible class. So I just kept studying. But she taught so many that by the time that it was like deep into it, my guidance counselor said, well, you're like 4 classes away from having a major in Russian literature. And I was like, well, majors are good. So I took 4 classes and got my Russian literature major. Actually, one of the freaking hardest classes there was linguistics. And they were teaching basically to how to dissect the sentence structure in America. And they were using like pronouns and nouns and adjective, adverbs, and how they all connect and stuff. And those were new words to me, adjective and whatever.
Yeah, no, I mean, that stuff's still super confusing to me, and I'm supposed to be fluent in this language. I'm still learning, like gerunds, prepositional phrases. I'm like, I don't know what that means. Subject, object. I know that's the beginning of all this, and I kind of get that. And I know what a noun is because it's a person, place, or thing. An adjective describes something. A verb is an action.
Right.
But that's about the extent of my knowledge.
And an adverb is what? Something leads up to the action?
I don't want to be wrong on my own podcast.
You see, so I'm not going to ask you. Like, beep!
Not mad at that timestamp.
So I struggled in that class, and dude, the teacher was awesome again. He met with me on office hours, off office hours, and I mean somehow I pulled it through, got it out there, and graduated. So when I graduated, I actually graduated with magna cum laude on I think both of them. I don't know. I kind of still have them in a tube. And I didn't break the seal on him. I figured...
I haven't even taken mine out either.
Yeah, what? Hey!
Yes.
What the heck do you do with it? You know what I mean? Afterwards, like, you don't run around with it like, hey, look at what I got,
Nobody has ever asked to see it, not once.
Not a single person. I don't think I've ever applied for a job where it even mattered.
Me either.
I actually worked for myself ever since.
Take note, Zoomers, if you're out there.
That's what you got to do.
I don't know. This podcast won't be on TikTok.
I was already in the bar business at the time. And making good money as a bartender, having a lot of fun, man. And so I just kind of transitioned fully into that. And what I figured out is that income, working 2 to 3 days a week, allowed me the time, the money, and flexibility to invest myself in learning about myself, know thyself, right? And so at the same time, I was doing martial arts, and I was learning how to act because I was a pro fighter for a little bit, not a good one. I mean, you can go look it up on YouTube.
I still wouldn't mess with you, bro. I wouldn't fuck with you.
I wouldn't mess with me either. I can lay and bleed on you like nobody else can. And you don't know what I've been, Johnny.
Well, I did see you lose that fight in Stranger Things.
Yeah, it's my MO. It's not a fabrication. I lose really well. I congratulate the winner. I don't talk shit about him. You know what I mean? Like, I'm like, yep,
You don't try to bite anybody's
no.
ear off.
I mean, you know what? That's like, have you ever heard him talk about that?
No.
So the other dude, I'm not going to name names, and I'm not going to name the other guy names, but the other dude was fighting dirty, inside street boxing dirty, like phone booth boxing, headbutts.
Okay.
And he kept warning him. He's like, if you do this to me again, because the first fight he lost because of that, because of the inside headbutts and shoulder bumps and stuff that is not really
You're
right.
not supposed to do.
No, it's stuff you can hide away. Now, this is his story about it, and I don't know. But apparently he kept warning him, and he said he was going to bite him if he wouldn't stop. And then he didn't stop. So there we go.
Okay.
So
interesting. That's another side of the story that I've never
That's
heard.
what he said.
Right?
So,
and I'm from Georgia, so it's like we want our hometown, people. Or
right.
blah, blah.
So, but that's what he said. Look up the documentary with him, man. It's a cool story because he really talks about some strange stuff and how hard his life was and how many lessons he learned, and just really cool, man. So yeah, that's my MO. I lose a lot. So I didn't want to get punched in the face anymore as I was losing. So I decided, look, I can just lose in pretend fights and probably make some money on it, way better than $250 that I made for losing in real fights.
And brain damage.
And the $28,000 medical bills.
Sure. Yeah. I mean, you still have all your teeth. You don't have cauliflower ears.
No, well,
That's
I have
nice.
like a little bit. My ears they just don't do that. My nose is like somewhere that I'm not really sure where it's like located, and I got a lot of scars on my face. I think like 9 or 10. I think, just from elbows and knees and stuff like that. But yeah, so that prompted me to think. I was like, I'm a performer at heart, and that's and actually in MMA, that's what I really loved. Is I had 11 fights. I think I won 8 and I lost 3 or 4. Something like that, some ratio. So what I really liked is the raised, right? That's the thing that I lived for. It wasn't anything else. I liked performing and hearing claps. That was it, man. So I was like, how do you combine all of that into a career? And I was like, well, a stuntman, right? But at that time in Georgia, there wasn't the $6 or $9 billion industry that it is now.
Right.
It was $60,000 outside investment. So I was looking everywhere for a coach because I understand coaching is the most important thing for you to raise to the next level, because that's what you got to do. Your coach will raise you to things that you didn't even know about. And until you know, you don't know where to go.
Yeah, you don't know what you don't know, as they say. Right.
Yeah. So I was looking for a coach, couldn't find one. At the same time, my buddy, George Howard Adams, he was getting back into acting. He was a 3% earner as an actor years back, then got into a business venture and kind of it didn't go well. His partners let him down a little bit, so he had to manage the business, and then he was just getting back into it. And he's like, the way he was going to get into is to teach, because when you teach, you learn, and that's a very powerful lesson to know, So he was like, look, why don't you start acting? And I said, me? Acting? I mean, that's impossible, right? And he goes, no, you, acting. I was like, well, stuntman, yeah, I know how to fall off horses. I know how to get beat up. I know how to get thrown away out of a window, picked up on a thing, like whatever. I know how to be damaged. I don't know how to make people believe that I'm going through something that they can relate to. And he said, shut up and come to my acting classes. Because once you learn how to act, even a little bit, you'll be a way better stuntman. I was like, oh, you're talking my language, sir.
Yeah, he showed you something that you didn't know you needed to know.
I didn't know that I needed to know that. And so I came in and started learning, and it was just fascinating. It wasn't pretending to be someone else. It wasn't trying to lie on stage. It wasn't connecting with a deeper you self and reliving it. It wasn't connecting with trauma like Stanislavski's method. It was putting your experience in life, isolating a particular trait, exacerbating it, making it bigger, making it bolder, making it be the dominant trait, and then creating a storyline around it and putting yourself into that situation and how would you act as that person in that situation. It was creating an understanding of other beings. Well, that was interesting. Sure, I can try that. And I did, and I was awful at it. And it didn't click, that whole put yourself in the situation thing. I still try to force I'm going to pretend to be this new person. And one time my coach took me, George, and he says, hey, don't pretend to be someone else. Pretend to be you in the circumstances of this person's story and represent the writer. Dang. I'm representing someone? I'm representing the writer's thoughts? And all I have to do is connect with his thoughts and be myself in his story? Wow, that's easy, right? Well, but to be yourself is easier to pretend. You at least have now experiences that you can push off of, right? So I was like, all right, cool, I'll try that. And it started clicking, and he started liking it, and the people in the class started liking it, and I was like, oh, attention. I'm an attention seeker.
I'm not going to call you a whore.
Well, I don't earn money for it yet. I haven't earned money for it at that time. So I was just a slut. Attention slut.
Okay. Copy that.
Coffee. So I kind of loved that whole thing. And then there was a guy, Matt Chastain, who was a iPhone producer and amazing dude. He has a show out there, a movie on DVD now. It's called Small Group, made by local Athenians in Athens and then in Guatemala, I believe he took. I mean, amazing. He raised the money. In any case. But he basically told me that he needed a actor for a commercial. It was a hot tub commercial in the Oconee connector, and he needed a physical actor. And I was like, sure, I can do physical acting, and we did it, and it's on YouTube. And so I did that, and then there was one of his friends were doing a short film fest, and then there was a short movie called Game Night that came out. By Micah Hudson, won a bunch of awards in local theaters, not theaters, but Morton Theater. We had the 24-hour-ish film festival, and it won an award there, and then it won an award in Atlanta. I think it was People's Choice, and I think People's Choice again. And so did that and did another, and so clips started accumulating and a reel started accumulating. I did a couple of free ones for friends that were doing production. A buddy of mine, what is it? In any case, a friend.
Is it Putin?
Did he steal the audio? So he did a production, and basically it was a short film, but he flew the SAG banner in it. It was a SAG Low E production, and man, it's killing me that I cannot remember his name right now. Jesus. But he did a production, and basically if you had lines in that production because of SAG rules, after it was completed, because he filed everything correctly, I had an invitation to become a SAG card holder. SAG is a Screen Actors Guild, for those of us who might not know the abbreviation. I decided to not take that chance against at any point, really, but because Georgia is a right-to-work state, being part of a union as a small performer would actually hinder me. And therefore, I decided to decline that, and well, not decline it, but just kind of put it on hold, because I wanted to do smaller productions. I wanted to still be able to do free productions and stuff like that. And so I continued that route, building my resume, got an agent, and then worked with that agent for about 3 years auditioning, and finally got my first opportunity. My first opportunity was actually the MacGyver revamp. It was the 3rd season, and I did the first show. Nothing happened because the scene got cut out, and other than the credits, which is great for your resume, but you can't really get the bragging rights, right? So then I got invited immediately, almost 3 months after I had that opportunity, or less. I was invited to do the Stranger Things without an audition, because I auditioned a year ago for a different character, and they were like, "Nah, that guy's good, we'll take him." I was like, all right, that's incredible, right? Like,
It's a great show too. I loved that show.
oh, I was such a fanboy, dude. I was like, oh, I'm gonna be in this show. What? Like, that's incredible.
I know, right?
So I was pumped because I already seen all the seasons, and I loved it, right? And so when I came up there, they're like showing me around, and they're calling me Mr. Kassaev, and they have like the honey wagon for me, and I'm like, oh my God, that's incredible. And then they go, then this is your stuntman. And I go, hi. In my mind, I'm like, but I'm also capable in the stunt thing. And I was like, shut up, George. You're here to be a part of a production, be collaborative. That's what you're supposed to do. That's what you're supposed to do when you're in a production. You're supposed to add value.
When in Rome, do as the Romans do.
Bang. So I did that, and I was like, very nice to meet you. We started talking. He was a great dude, man, like funny. We talked a bunch. And then I was like, hey, man, do you think I could practice this scene with you? because I also do stunts, and maybe well, I don't do stunts, but I would like to do stunts. And he's like, dude, yes, that's awesome. Come meet the stunt coordinator. I was like, oh my God, this guy's amazing. And so they let me practice that stuff. And before the shoot, we did the take, and I walked up to the director, and I was like, and you don't really do all this unless you're very polite and you're just trying to add value. I walk up to her and I say, hey, Uta, I would just like to say that I know that you guys, all the positions are filled, and I'm not trying to step on anybody's toes, but I know that sometimes the director wants the actor to also be able to do some of the choreography. And if that's the case here, I'm very comfortable with this choreography. I am a pro MMA fighter. I didn't tell her that I was a bad MMA fighter, but I was like, I'm a pro MMA fighter. I'm really comfortable with martial arts, and I practiced the scene already as well. And she looked at me, and she said, you get one chance. And I was like, thank you so much. I appreciate your opportunity.
Oh, that's awesome.
And it's like a duck, right? On the inside, you're calm. And the inside is just like feet are paddling, you know what I mean? You're like, oh my God, I don't want to drown.
Yes.
So I got to do this, and she walks up to me and she goes, when you get a day player, she's saying this in a very German accent. I don't want to do the German accent because I cannot. I can't do any accents except the Russian. And I can do that heavily or not as heavily. But I cannot not do it. So that's where we get. So she says to me in a German accent, she says, sometimes when you get day players, they are just... interpret that however you will. But then she says, with you, we got... And I was like, I think that's good, right? Oh my God. And I was just ecstatic because I brought value. I was recognized by a true performing expert, a director, that I was good. I finally believed for the first time, I believed in the fact that I was an actor through my mind. See, before...
You proved it to yourself then. At that point.
Yes. Before that, what I did is actually, I did not believe that I could be an actor until that point. What I did was I believed in George believing in me because George had more experience and he had a positive opinion of me. I had no experience and I had a negative opinion of me. So I could take a no experience negative opinion. Would you do that from anybody else? No. Or I could take a experienced positive opinion. So I took that one and I ran with it. I didn't believe in me. I believed in him believing in me, and I ran with it. And
that's enough. And there's a huge lesson in that too. Mm-hmm. The way that you approach that, the way that because you could have like immediately taken offense to the stunt actor and viewed him as an enemy.
Yes.
But instead you made him a friend and someone who wanted to help you, instead of being like, yeah, exactly. Like, and being polite, and just like, open to, when in Rome. I mean, do as the Romans do. Yeah, we're going to finish sentences from now on. But that's a huge, huge, huge lesson. It's and that says a lot about your character.
Thank you. I appreciate that very much. And I want people to understand that the path is never easy. The path is only interesting. And if you find the path interesting, then you can open more paths off the paths. The doors just start opening up. If I didn't find stunting interesting, and if I didn't seek advice and knowledge, because that's what I believe at the end of it all, you always need to seek is more knowledge, then I would have not approached any of it the same way, and what happened at the end of it all, this is the result of it. The result of it was that I got invited to do another scene of Stranger Things, another episode, which I wasn't originally even scheduled. In fact, when you read I did episode 3 first. I did episode 1 second.
Oh, that's when you're like the cat on two or something. I can't remember what the quote is, but you're on the phone.
Yep,
and you're like decode. You're saying this crazy coded.
Yep.
Yeah.
I'm the transmitter, right?
Right.
The character, if you look at it in the IMDb, it has two different names. One is like the radio specialist, and the other one is like an officer or something like that. So it's two different characters. They were going to use two different people. They instead decided to use me.
That's awesome.
And as a result of being in the episode 1, my voice gets translated through episode 2. So essentially, I was in 3 episodes, right? Which is cool. You know what I mean? And that is the kind of catapulting you can do if you are just polite. That's all. And then real estate happened kind of interestingly. After that, I was doing that at the same time. So I was doing mixed martial arts. I was learning how to act. I was proceeding to that. And then I was as a bartender, I wanted to figure out how to be independent. And I saw that in United States, independence was achieved through a very obvious pathway. Most wealthy people protected their wealth in real estate, because the United States government gives people who own real estate tax advantages. They essentially are telling you, please do real estate. Well, whether the government is good, the government is bad, you agree with the stances, disagree with the stances, you live in it.
When in Rome.
Do as the Romans do. And so I was like, well, they say that they want me to do real estate, essentially. I'm really interested in real estate. I mean, it's kind of like treasure finding. You find a bad house and you restore it, and now it's beautiful, right? That's cool. You know, you touch things. You make a difference for people, right? And even I know there's a lot of bad rap for real estate investors that they take advantage. No one is ever taking advantage of a person. I mean, maybe unscrupulous people, I don't know. But if you really think about it, people aren't dumb. If I come up to you and say your car outside is worth to you 10 grand, hey, I'll give you $5, sell it to me. You're not gonna take that. Why would you? But if tomorrow you absolutely need $7,000 and I give you 6, you will take it, because I have to make a profit as well, because it's not a charity event. Mm-hmm. I wish it was. Right. Everybody wants to be charitable. Not a single person, I don't think, on a planet would say, hey, if you had everything already set up for yourself, would you give your access, the over the top stuff to everybody else? Yeah, and most do, right? Most wealthy people give away a lot of their wealth. Mm-hmm. So charity is there, but you have to make a profit. I don't think anybody takes advantage of anybody. So it's interesting that. So the government kind of wants you to do it. So I started studying, and I was already actually joined my buddy. He had his own carpentry business, and we started flipping homes, building people's houses and stuff like that for them. We were their contractors, and so I saw the difference there. You could work as a contractor and make a couple $1,000s, or you could be the guy that buys the house and contracts the contractor and then sells it and make a lot more, couple of $1,000s. And so I decided that would be the path. He had to leave to Chicago to take care of his father, and I decided that this was the right time. I could either continue with the same business or go forward, And I wasn't the head guy in this. He was. He had the engineer background and all of that stuff. So for me, pretending to be the guy wasn't the right choice. So I, at that time, decided to join a education system for real estate investment. I took the program I did a 3-day seminar, and then I bought the program for 6 months and used the program. Got a lot out of it. Right as I was starting to get into the business, the flipping business, the real estate prices started coming up. This is now past all of the 2007-8 debacle with the real estate. We're in 2016s, somewhere around there, and so prices just started coming up. There was just and the old models started not work as well. And because I was coming from the education and couldn't apply it directly, I was hesitant. So it took me a little bit, but I got my first duplex under contract. Flipped that. We paid 45 for the duplex, put another 45 into it, made it beautiful, restored the garage behind it, put some renters in it, had it as a rental, and then sold it at the end at about 125. So that was our first home run. Then I immediately after that I found another home and we flipped it, made really good money. The owner just loved us. I'm still good friends with Kevin, and it's just been a good thing from that. But I was still working at the bar, and I felt like it was incongruent. So I decided to become a real estate agent. So that's kind of the whole story of it all. I mean, we got into a lot of it. But the reason for the motivational stuff is because that I see the world now, and I see the way certain things that I've done in my life, if I would have known earlier, I could have done it more efficiently. And I just didn't know to know.
Sure.
So you can influence the world a bunch of different ways. You can do it from one person to the next person, or you can do it on a mass scale. Podcasting, speaking for people, not necessarily for profit, like Gary Vee did. You know what I'm saying? Like, yeah, he gets paid for his speeches, but he puts out a lot of content that you can consume and learn from. Like I consume a lot of his stuff because he's a positive person that makes you want to be more. Now he's him, right? Like he's not polished on stuff, and he's very passionate about things, and I love that.
Yeah. Well, nobody's for everybody,
right?
And I think that's really, really cool because that means there's plenty of room for people, in different styles and different ideas and takes, And so I think it's amazing that you want to get into that. That's it's almost like we go through phases in life and we work our fucking asses off. We work and work and work to get to a point where we can just be okay,
right?
But once you get to that point, you work a little harder, you work a little bit more, and then you get to a place where you're starting to see some success. And then you get to a place, but all of this starts because you gave yourself the opportunity,
right?
That you took a bet on yourself. You gambled on yourself. And a lot of people are in a place where they won't do that. And I've been at that place, even up like recently where, for instance, like one of the problems that I've had in the past is that I will work really hard on a collaborative project where there's a group involved, and I'll go over and above, and I'll do all the extras, and I'll put a pretty bow on it, and I'll be like, here you go. And more often than not, it either goes unappreciated or I exhaust my energy so much that I don't have anything left for to put in my pail, to put in my bucket. And I want to make sure that I'm doing the things for myself to the degree of, not necessarily perfectionism, but that I care enough about myself and the work that I'm doing that I go the extra mile on it. And so that's been a flaw in myself that I've noticed, and I've tried to do that. And I've, this year, like I was telling you about the autonomy course before the podcast, that's something that I wanted to do for me, that's a group of people who are kind of like-minded that I really jive with. And the whole point of that course is to build your own, be autonomous, to build, to know yourself, know your worth, build your skills, and then, be an entrepreneur and give something to the world. And I think as we're going through that process, once we allow ourselves to have, then we can get to the point where we can really give. Right. And I think you are the type of person that has been giving the entire way, and there's nothing wrong with that. That's a good thing. But it's also important to give ourselves the value, and respect, and and have the self-worth, and sometimes it takes a long time to give it, because you're talking about I can't be an actor, right? I don't believe in myself, but when someone else believes in you, you can take your belief, or you can take their belief and put it in you, and at that point apply that. And now you have a little bit of gas in your tank. Exactly. So that can be the thing. And so sometimes it's a risk to say, well, I'm going to spend $5,000 on this course, or I'm going to spend $3,000. And, behind me, the first, sort of self-help course that I bought was in probably 2012 or 13. So I'm 7 years in on this. I've probably spent $10,000 or $15,000 on self-development. Well, that's still cheaper than 2 semesters of college.
But that's what you notice. What you said, self-development. It's not spending. It's investing.
Yeah.
You're gonna be you for the rest of you. What else do you gonna spend money on? The people that spend money on things that break, right, slowly deteriorate, lose value immediately.
Cars and
anything, right? Like I spend money on it too. I'm not saying that I don't.
No, I mean, there are going to be, we're going to spend money on liabilities. That's part of, and also it's life. We should enjoy it.
But this is the simple mentality blocks that we get. And I experience it still. I just am aware of it now and I break through them. But like I spent $100 almost yesterday on sushi dinner, right? With my girlfriend. It was amazing. I didn't even blink an eye. $100 here. The other day, I'm thinking about buying a website that will create an opportunity for me to capture more leads, to service more people, to help more folks out. It costs $100 a month. And it was harder for me to buy that website than it was to spend $100 on dinner. Why? Because no immediate gratification. And then a commitment. And that's scary. And then it means you have to do stuff to that website. You have to develop it. You have to now go all in.
Yep. And you have to learn new skills. But at that point, you've thrown your hat over the fence and you've kind of set yourself up. So when I got into the Airbnb thing, and similar thing, one of our partners, basically what I did was I approached people who weren't able to rent their homes for, if in this town, if you don't rent your home that you're trying to rent by August 1st, it ain't going to rent.
Right.
Because the students basically rent everything in this town. So we would approach people who couldn't rent their places. So one of our partners, my mom was living in this quadruplex, and Trisha's an amazing, amazing person. Mm-hmm. But we went through and ultimately, we made a deal with her and we're like, hey, we'll turn these into Airbnbs because they weren't really as desirable as, long-term places, a long-term residence, but they were perfect for short-term and people coming in for football games and weddings and stuff like that. So what we did was, we furnished and really upkept those units and made them nicer. So like your duplex,
right?
You put an investment in there, and then you made it nice. So that's kind of what we did with her, and she was so happy about it. The house was always well taken care of; it was maintained. So I threw my hat over the fence there, and as well here. And my house is dirty today, but when I was doing Airbnb, and I'm still a super host on their platform, but when I was doing Airbnb, which I'm currently not, I had to keep this house clean because I had to.
Right.
Otherwise, I would have people coming in. So you get that website, and they would give me a bad review and be like, this place stinks like hot dogs, bro.
Exactly.
Get off the couch. But when you get that website, yeah, you are putting yourself in a position that you have to move, but you're putting yourself on a higher timeline just by making that decision, because now you really have no choice. Yep. You've got skin in the game, and now you have to develop that website. And every single month that's coming out. And I understand that too, because it's when we first met, I'd go out to the bar, I'd spend $60 at the bar. I'm sober now, but so I'm not going to go out and spend $60 at the bar necessarily. Then again, I might take my friend out and be like, I'm going to watch you get hammered.
You're right.
I'm going to buy you some shots of Jägermeister.
I'm going to live through you today. Yeah.
It was no problem for me to drop $60 on that, but I couldn't save, $60 a month or $60 a week to buy a nice camera or a nice something, or a website for myself, which I'm currently working on, or do YouTube thumbnails, which I just started to do and make look nice.
Right.
When there was someone else to appease or to I don't know, I guess that's the right word. Then it seemed somehow easier, and I think that had a lot to do with schooling, honestly. And so that's why I think the autonomy course is so interesting, because it's here are 19 essential skills that you can go out and you can learn how to create your own future and hold your own destiny in your hands. Because if you go and work for somebody else for a paycheck, then you don't necessarily have that opportunity. I mean, bartending was cool because we get to meet a lot of people.
And you had a lot of time because how lucrative the position was.
All day I was working on the Airbnb business, right? So I would go into work I was working 3 jobs. I was working 2 different bar jobs and building that Airbnb business, which, 2020 hasn't been kind to me financially, but that doesn't mean there's not again, like I'm going to continue and I'm doing, even better. But like literally I would go into work, I would make $200 at the bar. I would take that $200 and I would buy a TV for that Airbnb or a couch or, a comforter or whatever. Right. And so we kept doing that. And so like, at this point, Trisha's really happy and she's about to sell the house. That's incredible. She thought when, she lost her husband just before we partnered up of cancer. Obviously that wasn't the best thing and she wasn't in a great place. But when we approached her, she was like, sure, try it. Right. And she was open enough to do it. And we were hungry. And we made that house desirable because it was not. Right. I mean, when John was on his deathbed, he told Trish, like, you're going to need to sell the house and you're going to take a loss on it. And we have, at this point, she has, and of course I don't want to jinx anything, but like at this point she has backup offers on this house. That's for sale. And like the asking price was met, no problem. And the value of the house went up tremendously because we partnered up, And she did a lot to the house too. Yeah. Like she did HVAC for it and some things like that are like permanent.
But she was able to do that because you brought her a model that gave her the ability to earn income with her asset versus to pay income out of her income onto her liability. See, everything... If you haven't read The Rich Dad, Poor Dad by Kiyosaki, just do it. I mean, I get it. It's been overused and been overstated and all of that, but it's a simple storytelling way to give light at how wealth is created. Simple, right? What is an asset? What is a liability? You don't have to understand complicated math to know this.
What is cash flow?
Asset gives you money. Liability takes your money.
Right. One cash flow flows and one away from you, and the other makes cash flow toward you.
Yeah. So it's simple. So then everything in your life now, take a look at it. What is it? Is it a car? Are you paying money on it? Well, that's what? A liability. Unless you're driving for Uber and making more money than you're paying on the car, then that's an asset. Everything can be an asset or liability. It just depends. Either it's giving you a positive return or a negative return. What is it? So that's all it is. And once you get that, you set up an opportunity for this woman to create an asset that would give her money. And now, years later, after taking advantage of that asset's production, after being able to rehabilitate the asset, she is now able to sell the asset at above asking or met asking cost and not lose anything on the asset. You've transformed that person's life for the better at the time when nobody else could. And even if your business didn't survive today, the whole Airbnb debacle and the 2020 pandemic, that means nothing. It isn't a failure until you decide to stop on whatever you do. It is a lesson. And you, by building that business, created more knowledge and more self-awareness than anyone who just went to work for 8 hours straight. And I'm not saying that it's a bad thing to go to work for 8 hours straight. But when you're working for somebody else for 8 hours straight every single day, there isn't much time left for you to work for you. So find that time. And at first it's going to be hard because...
You might be working 2 bar jobs.
Or 3.
or whatever. And
trying to build a business.
And trying to build a business on the side. And, but eventually that time will pass. That time you'll get past it. Yep. And the true gift of doing that, other than helping Trish and having an amazing adventure and a great story to tell, is that if I've done it once, I know that I can do it again. And one of the things that I've learned in this course, and last night Richard was talking about the learning curve. And what the learning curve looks like is it looks like, you discover something and you get really excited, and then your energy level goes down and plummets to where you want to quit. And this happens no matter what you're learning. It doesn't matter. It could be anything. It could be acting. It could be building a business. It could be anything. When you hit that point where you want to quit, and you will, no matter what it is, I promise you, I've hit it at comedy.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, my God.
Everything.
I mean, I don't know that I'm even done with that. Every time I go on stage, I'm like, Jesus Christ, what am I doing, bro? And I got a lot of Jesus jokes. But that is the critical point where you begin to go up the learning curve, and then you begin to build the skill. No matter what the skill is, that's always going to be the case. And that is a nugget right there. And you know, that was, you know, part of the lesson last night. And I was like, man, I even took a picture on my phone of it. I was like, that's brilliant. Like to see the learning curve like that, because I've experienced it. I can't tell you how many fights my mom and I had building that business. And at certain points, I was like, I'm just going to quit. I'm going to walk away. Or like film sets, being on film sets, Jesus. It's such a high stress environment. And, you know, I can't tell you how, every film project that I've ever been on, at some point, I've wanted to walk off set. Every single one. Every relationship that you've been in with a girlfriend or a boyfriend or a partner of whatever you're choosing, every single one of them, I guarantee you wanted to break up that relationship. It's part of the learning curve. And there's no skipping that part.
No, there isn't. And but what you can do is be able to pad that part. So that part is not as aggressive against you. And it's very simple. I've always done it this way. If I like something and I start doing it and I do it for a particular amount of time, and then I feel a burnout on it, I don't quit it. I keep doing it as much as I can. I find something else I like. And then I also start learning that stuff. Because it's kind of simple. Because by the time you start getting the burnout, you've in for a couple of thousand hours. They say a repetitive task, 10,000 hours, and you're a master of it, right? So that means if you're in a couple of thousand, maybe 7, maybe 5, maybe 6, don't just stray away. Get the hours. Get your 10. Because after that, you're a master. And now you can just keep up the task. At least that's how I think about it, my man. There's no proven science to this.
No, that's a great approach to it. And your math example, for instance, is definitely one. You know, you're working at Dial America. Like that is absolutely probably one of the most horrid jobs I could dream up for somebody to be a telephone salesman. And and who knows what crap you're peddling over the phone. You know, and talking to the types of people that just sign up for those types of products. I mean, the rule of 5 is real.
It was not a fun job. I'll tell you what. But let's not even go to that story. I don't even want to. But no, that's exactly what. You do those things because you have to understand that passion, it has to be fueled by something. Not just passion. Passion alone will make you a starving artist. Starving may make you dead. I don't want to be dead. I want to have my passion touch other people. My passion needs to be fueled by finances. Sometimes those finances line up with the passion. I'm a real estate agent. I also invest in real estate. That lines up. I like real estate. I can explain almost anybody who can become wealthy in this country just through the power of real estate. Anybody. Right now you're sleeping on your couch and you're thinking that doesn't apply to me. If you have a second room to rent in your house, you can pay a lot less money in rent. That money will free you up to something else. There is always a way. You just got to recognize it. There's one thing that somebody said. I went to a Stronger Business Summit in Athens, Georgia, actually, which is incredible. Next year, you'll need to find it. It's called Stronger Business Summit at the Classic Center. There was an amazing speaker, an event over like, I think, 12 hours, all day. Jesse Lizzo, the guy that wrote the book Living with the Navy SEAL.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. He was there because he's an Atlanta resident. He was telling it. And there was a couple of guys that were just big influences, and they're either in Georgia or grew up in Athens. And one of them said a very simple thing. He said, in our society, pressure is a blessing. Because it's easy to live in the United States of America. I know people don't think that, but it is. I mean, the government will give you stamps and housing, and maybe you won't like neither, but you'll be able to live and you won't have to do anything for it. And that's pretty incredible. A lot of people in a lot of countries don't have that even opportunity, much less are able to take advantage of the system. So it's easy to live here. Pressure. Think about it. I believe it's a hermit crab, right? They switch shells, right? Well, hermit crab apparently can grow to enormous sizes, or it can stay very, very tiny. And it's a decision that the crab makes. Holy crap. Holy crab! It's a decision that a crab makes. But he makes a decision. At some point, he feels uncomfortable inside of his shell, inside of the vessel, because they don't grow their own shell. They steal shells or things that look like shells. It could be, a Volkswagen bug or a beer can.
Giant hermit crab.
That's how big
around.
apparently they can grow.
Wow.
Like now, that's what I've heard. I don't have actual.
That's crazy.
And look, maybe you Google it and completely say, George, you're a liar. In which case, figure out about another crab that does this. Because I know there's a crab that does this, right? But basically, at some point, he feels uncomfortable inside of his shell. And he has two decisions. One is stay in the shell, in which case the discomfort will go away at some point, and he will stay that size for the rest of his life. The other choice he has is to migrate to a bigger shell. Now, when he does that, he's exposed. He does not have a shell. He's just running around for creatures to eat him up. Well, that's a terrible risk. But the reward for that is bigger. And the bigger he gets, the less things can eat him. He becomes the guy that eats things. Right? And so you think about that and you're like, well, okay, I'm not a crab and I don't have a shell. But don't you have a shell? And aren't you afraid of leaving it and being exposed and taking a risking life, but the crab dies if he gets eaten. You just dust yourself off and do another thing. Why don't you take a risk? I decided a while back, and it's a weird decision, I don't take a lot of people's advice. If I decided on something, I will seek people's advice and then I'll learn from them. But as a general rule, you should do this. If that's the structure of the sentence, that's how it starts, usually I won't.
Everyone loves unsolicited advice, don't they?
It's beautiful.
The best.
Even if it's advice from somebody you trust. I rather take my own decision, my own advice, and fail, because failure is just a word, than take somebody else's advice and also fail. Because when you fail on your own advice, well, no blame. My advice, my responsibility, moving on. When you fail on somebody else's advice, it's like you're setting yourself up to have a reason to fail. And then you can be like, well, that guy told me and I failed. Well, take responsibility. You decided to take that guy's advice. So whatever you do, fail on your own terms. It's a lot better than succeeding on somebody else's.
Oh, man. That's so good.
You know what I mean?
Absolutely, because you're not going to be fulfilled in that way anyway. It's not your original desire or curiosity that you're following. It's not your goal. It's somebody else's advice for you to do a certain, unless you've made a decision and you've sought counsel and you paid for a coach or something like that, which is a great thing to do. And it's intimidating. And you're like, for me, I recently signed up, even though I'm in this autonomy course, like that was a big step for me. But I felt like I went up a level,
right,
when I made that decision. And I said, I'm going to do this, even though I'm not really sure how I'm going to get the money for this. I'm in debt because of the business failing and things like that. But I was like, you know what? What's the other option? The other option is for me to just be defeated and
stay in your freaking shell,
home and stay in my shell. So I said, you know what? I'm going to get out and I'm going to, start rolling.
Yep.
And, through meeting some of the people and even the people who are like the leaders within that group, like they're happy to have me,
Right.
because I do have skills that I can at least bring
To the
table. You know, I can help them coordinate because I've done casting. I can help them, you know, write silly, goofy commercials and get more attention and things like that. So I have things that I can bring to the table. So as long as I lead with those things, then people are going to be like, oh yeah, absolutely, come on in for the most part. And if they don't, fine, peace out. I'm dipping. I'll find another shell elsewhere.
Yep.
But yeah, I think investing in yourself, even if you feel like you don't deserve it, go ahead and just get out of your shell.
Yep.
Take that risk, because you're never going to grow if you don't.
Yep. And another beautiful thing happens when you do that. When you decide to leave out of your shell and go for a bigger shell, an irreversible occurrence happens. You can never go back. How great is that? You will never go back to the small person that you used to be.
That is amazing.
Just strong, no matter how. Even if that shell that you go to doesn't actually last long and breaks, you're not going to find a bigger shell.
Yeah, you don't have a choice.
You have to. So once you go out of that little shell of yours the first time and you beat that discomfort up and you crush it and you find the next one, it doesn't matter what happens with that shell anymore. That next shell is irrelevant. It's now a stepping shell or stepping stone shell. Shall we stepping stone it?
Yes.
So because of that, all you do is you now realize that you can leave shells and it's not a problem. So you will never go back to being the small crab that you are.
Man.
And that is a blessing. And that is why pressure is a blessing. And so if you're experiencing uncomfort now, you have two choices. Whatever there are, get a better job, get a better salary, get a better education. I'm not saying that those who work for a living are bad people. That's who makes the life go around. Yeah. But decide it. Decide that you are and don't let go of the wheel. That's what we do a lot of times. We graduate college, we get our degree, we get into our corporate position, we understand when there is a letter, and we let go of the wheel. Sclerosis and mental deterioration happens because we stop exercising our brain after the age of 40. We don't learn anything anymore. We just go from, okay, no, enough, beep, and your neurons myelin sheath start deteriorating, and the leading causes because you don't exercise the neuron strength anymore. You don't intake more knowledge. That's a problem. That's why there's sclerosis. Why are we doing that to ourselves? Learn some stuff, man. Pull your weight. Even if you work for every single day, do it consciously and have other things you like to do. Don't let go of the wheel. It is one life that you remember. You might remember more if you're lucky, but hey, it's one. Don't let go of the wheel. Keep driving, bro. Like, even if you're cruising and down 101, you know what I mean? Like, it's a straight line. You don't have no turns. Don't let go of the wheel. Don't fall asleep behind. You don't drive a Tesla, man. Maybe you do.
Not
but
yet.
I heard somebody got in trouble for falling asleep in a Tesla.
Oh,
like,
really?
he was just like sleeping and letting it drive.
I'm sure that's not the worst thing.
Probably not, right?
But man, oh my God, this has been such a good conversation, dude. I really appreciate you coming by. It's always good to catch up with you, and I just feel like a super fortunate person to know you. Like,
same here, man.
God, it's awesome, and I've seen you come from, you know, working as a bartender to now owning your own business and having your own website and being a real estate agent. And I mean, I remember, you know, when you passed the test for it and all that. And I was like, that's awesome. And we have some mutual friends, Sam and Jacqueline and Ben, and Ben, who's been on the podcast, and so is Jacqueline, actually. And you know, we've all just encouraged each other and been so proud of, and I just think it's awesome. I think it's great that you want to continue to move forward and to give, because you have an amazing story. I mean, I think a lot of people probably at the beginning of this podcast were like, circus performer? This guy's trolling. You know what I mean? He's trolling hard.
Yeah, man.
But I mean, that's amazing. And I guess at this point, you know, I want to say thank you. And where can people find you? Do you have a name for your podcast?
Thank you very much, man. The podcast is still in the works. I believe it's going to be quote something like time to invest in self.
Okay.
Because that's what we need to all do, is take an investment in ourselves. So I'm not really sure about that yet. If you want to contact me for any reasons, myathensrealtor.com. All my information is there. It also teaches you about, real estate, if you want to do the blog and all of that. So if you want to contact me, all of my information is there. Reach out. I love talking to people. I love answering questions for beginners, and it's free of charge. I believe in giving. I think that's how we all grow. The other thing, man, is I appreciate you. When we met, it was two guys drinking. It wasn't really, we didn't talk about a lot of bigger things, but I immediately realized that there was more to both of us than what it was. You know what I mean? Like just a couple guys that serve liquor, right? And then I remember when the crossover for me happened. I remember when we on Domino's shoot for Nothing More, right? That one, by the way, well, what an amazing shoot that was.
That
Brian
was.
Redding was there, Ben, Katie, I mean, everybody, right? Like, such a cool production. All of the guys that came in to help with the stunts, I mean, oh my God. And it was a hard day. And the guys from the band, Jesus, man, workhorses.
Yeah.
I mean,
they were like, they had a hard out at like 5 or 6 o'clock. So, I mean, they were just hammering away at scenes. And Ben had this idea in his mind that I couldn't even fathom until I saw it finished. He was like, hey, you want to see like my treatment? And I read it and I was like, blah, 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 blah. And then I saw the video and I was like, oh.
If you guys haven't seen the video for Let Him Burn, go find it.
I'll put it in the show notes. So I'll put your links in the show notes for Athens Realty. I'll put the Let 'Em Burn link for the music video that we both worked on. I was working as the second AD on that, and you were a stuntman, actor.
I was the stunt coordinator for that, actually. It was really cool because Ben
did all the
choreography for that. Yeah, we worked pretty hard. The guys came in. The Hardcore Gym supplied a couple of them. Straight Blast Gym is what it's called now. Another performer, Beverly, she came in, and I mean that girl worked her tail off. Amazing performer. She's a SAG stunt performer now. You find her. She's on Facebook probably. Yeah,
Beverly Provost.
Yep.
Yeah, I follow her on Instagram.
Yeah, she's awesome. And so we all came in and we worked our tails off. But that's when I saw you that you were in filming, and I was like, man, this guy is amazing. He bartended. Then he built a business for Airbnb before I even really knew what Airbnb was, honestly. Like, I was like, what the heck is Airbnb? And I was like, looked it up. I was like, wow, cool. And then I saw you in this other capacity as well. And then I was like, oh yeah, he did drums and he knows sound. But that's not even the department he's in. He was like, man, a man that has so many skills and are willing to impart and give, that's always a good guy to know, man. So I appreciate it. I thank you for having me here, and I thank you for being you, man.
Yeah, no, I don't have any choice in the matter. So like, I'm just trying to do the best that I can. You guys out there, remember, when in Rome, do as the Romans do, and Timet Noske. How do you say Timet Noske or know thyself in Russian?
Знай себя.
Знай себя.
Знай себя. Знай себя. Cool. That's it. Знай себя.